Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Hi, it's Dr. Gemma, and welcome to episode 38 of Cognitive. Please be aware that comments are always welcome. You can send them to our group on Ravelry, which is imaginatively titled Cognitive. It might actually be Cognitive Podcast. I'm not even sure. I need to go look at it this week. Or you can send your comments to cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Either way, they will land on this page or somewhere where I will see them, and I will be happy to answer them. Let's see what else you need here. Oh, I'm not going to read all the top stuff. Let's see. Warm thanks department. Well, my beloved, this past weekend, was our 29th wedding anniversary. The really embarrassing thing is we forgot the date and the year we were married. I know. And I finally tracked back and found it and was so embarrassed. We celebrated our 20th anniversary on our 19th. I mean, seriously, I don't know what got into us, but we've been saying, are we at our 30th yet? And finally we had to look it up. We've just never been huge on the anniversaries. I don't know why. But this year was a particularly nice one, and I'll get into that in the blather. But warm thanks to my beloved that we had the conversation we had every year, which is, I'd really do it again. Me too. It's been a great time, and I'm very grateful to have him to grow old with, because we are doing that rapidly with all the crazy in our lives. And it's been a little sad too, because I've realized this week we're a little prematurely old, because the wave of animals we had right after we bought the farm with the llamas and the alpacas and the dogs, they've all gone to that great kennel in the sky. And it's hard to remember that we haven't, and we still have time on the farm with animals. But yeah, when you look around and you realize the days of yore where we had llamas and alpacas wandering around have kind of filtered down to just one llama and one alpaca. And all the old guard of dogs that we brought from Washington have, gone on ahead. It feels a little sad. And I say this too because I'm thinking of Sunnybank, which I'm not going to this year because they're doing a big welcome back festival. And they did that a few years ago. And for reasons I won't go into, I felt sort of uncomfortable with it. So no Sunnybank this year. And that has freed up some resources. And so we've had a really nice week as a result. And we'll have another one around my birthday. But I meander. Warm thanks to my beloved. 29 years. It's really been about 35 because we dated for a long time before we were ready to tie that knot. Because we were in graduate school for doctorates, and that tends to interfere with normal marital timelines. We've been together an awfully long time. I think officially we've been together since 1987, and it's been wonderful, I have to tell you. So, having said all that sentimental stuff and a lot of tangential stuff, you must be wondering right now, hey, Gemma, what is on your hooks and needles? Nothing is finished. It hasn't been that kind of week. I've been tired all week, because the crazy from the week before bled over. I don't know what it is. Sometimes you think the moon is blue or something. People talk about Mercury being in retrograde. Well, actually, in the zodiac, Mercury is kind of my personal, I don't know what you call it, symbol or deity because of the time I'm born and all that. So I don't think Mercury in retrograde gets to me nearly as much as whatever happened last week. But I have no idea astrologically what that was. At any rate, this week was about bringing things together and sort of calming down, and I must say it was wonderful. So nothing was finished. However, the jury duty shawl is now visibly different. because I'm visibly moving down the pink gradient. And I took the picture of it this week to show that. So you're looking at the picture and you're seeing the bottom tip, which is a silvery pink, like a pink-white, and the very top edge, which is a darker pink. And they look quite amazing together. It is hard when you see this shawl stretched out to see that it's a gradient because there is so much negative space, as you can tell by looking at it. But I am still wildly enjoying it. This is really all I feel like working on. I notice now, looking back through my memories on Facebook of all things, that in the summers I seem to like to crochet and somewhat to spin more than I like to knit. I don't know. I say that as a good thing because the really pretty socks I've just done like a row or two. But Twin Face's beautiful vest, if she doesn't ever send it back to me, I am telling myself, well, I don't want to knit on it anyway because I don't want to knit right now. But really, if it ever lands in my lap again, I swear I'm going to knit the thing and finish it. I really wanted to have it by September, early September for our birthday. She's kind of holding that one up. Twin Face is not subtle about birthday presents, that she wants them on time, the way she wants them, and where she wants them. She really hates late stuff, makes her crazy, which doesn't bother me at all. My birthday present arrives 3 months later. I'm grateful I got a birthday present. I'm just totally not into the punctuality thing. But it bothers her a lot. And so I really want to get this done for her, but I'm also worried she's not sending it to me. Okay, meanwhile, the wild lettuce shawl. Well, I thought about doing it this week. And again, I just don't feel like knitting even something that lightweight in my lap. The temperature blanket, as I dictate this, is about 3 days behind. But I'm about to do a long phone call with a friend and it will catch up. So that's really charming. The temperature blanket right now is in caution mode. That is, we've had a lot of weather in the 80s, and so it's in that orange yellow that is caution, which is fine by me because I have a ton of the orange and yellow and red yarns for this, and I'm ready to use them. Meanwhile, Dizzy Blondes. Well, I showed you last week that I had finished the beautiful bobbin of Be Myself, her dye job called Wine Cooler, and it's a gradient from pale pink into very dark burgundy. And it looks gorgeous, and it's just sitting here in my bobbin basket with a bobbin of the spun merino, the incredibly beautifully pin drafted merino from Morro Bay Fleece Works. And yeah, I did put the link in the show notes this time. And they look lovely side by side. And so I'm working on another bobbin of that same merino, which is endless. And I'm also looking at it and thinking, do I have enough here to just make a straight up sweater from it, which would change the way I look at what I'm doing. But nonetheless, I haven't got much to show pictures of because I've just been back on the white merino again. Well, the cream natural merino. The nice news is that brings me up to a strategy. And the strategy is something called Teflon Mind. We're back in that gray area between mindfulness and distress tolerance in dialectical behavioral therapy when I talk about this week's topic and next week as well. Teflon Mind is pretty much what you think it is. Don't let anything stick. And this is really important. In Buddhism, this is called detachment, and it's very misunderstood by Westerners. Westerners hear detachment as meaning you love nothing and nobody. And I think that's selling Buddhism a bit short. And so I like the Teflon Mind concept from Marsha Linehan's work, which is simply your brain is like Teflon. You don't let anything stick. So if someone says something to you and you find it offensive, you simply don't let it stick. You let it slide off you. There are a number of really good reasons for this that tie into both distress management skills and mindfulness. In terms of distress management, when you do this, when you use Teflon Mind, you are essentially managing distress. Someone says something that hurts you and you make an active decision, I am not going to take that in, or I'm not going to absorb it, or I'm not going to hold that against you, whatever. But Teflon mind comes out of a much more secure core of mindfulness. If you believe you are in charge of your mind, most people, at least in the West, hear that as, okay, I have mental self-control, so I am highly mentally disciplined, so if I need to study, I can drop everything and study, and I can do things I need to do, like when I'm depressed, I can still get my work done, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's a kind of detachment, but we're into a much bigger base here. When we talk about Teflon mind, we're talking about feeling so secure about your core self, about who you are and what you know to be true, that you simply don't accept things that you don't want in your mind. So it's much bigger than the simpler versions of mental self-control where you say, I am mentally disciplined and I can get my work done, or I can stay in charge of myself when I'm sad. And all. It's bigger. Teflon mind, I mean, when you say, I'm very sad, but I'm still going to get my work done, that's wonderful. That's very praiseworthy. Don't get me wrong. Teflon mind is sort of one step into a bigger sphere than even that. Teflon mind is everything just bounces off. So something tragic happens to me, and I'm able to put it aside calmly and recognize that it may be something over which I have no control, and I am able to simply move forward. It is not coldness. It's easy to think of this as a detached coldness because Western culture, again, struggles with that concept that we believe detachment equals emotional remoteness. We think it's Mr. Spock. If you're detached, you're Mr. Spock. And of course, if you're my age, you know that Mr. Spock in the show, everybody admired how cool and detached he was. And of course, as time progressed, we realized, boy, is that unhealthy. That is so Western detachment. And so, of course, the movies start showing how Spock is breaking down and wants to have attachment, wants to be emotional. And all of this is this terrific misreading of detachment. If you want to see good detachment in a fictional character, you want to look at Yoda in the first 3 Star Wars movies made by George Lucas. And again in The Last Jedi, is it? No. The one where Luke goes to the afterlife. Oh, is it The Last Jedi? It's the second movie of the most recent trilogy. And where Luke, just before he gives up the ghost, he meets Yoda. And that Yoda is a Buddhist Yoda. All the Yodas in the other movies in between kind of sucked. But the Yoda we meet in the original movies, he simply goes on. When he's driven into hiding by Darth Vader, he simply finds himself a nice swampy rock and retires under it. And when Luke shows up, he doesn't really need to talk to Luke about Darth Vader, about Ben Kenobi, that Yoda doesn't talk to Luke about anything. Now, we know from that movie, Luke says, why didn't Ben tell me? And yeah, Ben Kenobi withholds things. He has not achieved Jedi cool, which is basically Buddhism. But Yoda simply isn't concerned. Yoda says, here's this Skywalker kid. We got to make him into a Jedi Master. I seem to be the one who's going to do it. He has occasional consultations with the ghost of Ben Kenobi, which never really gets explained. But Yoda simply isn't there for all that. And it's interesting that Luke never thinks of saying, why didn't Yoda tell me? He just says, why didn't Ben tell me? Because Ben is the pseudo-father, and Yoda is the Jedi Master. Yoda is the Buddhist master. Anyway, that's as close as you're going to get. That Yoda seems to like Luke. He seems to be concerned about Luke, but he's not highly attached. He simply is doing his job, and it's nice that he can like Luke along the way, so much so that Luke likes him back and is with him when he dies, goes to take care of him when he's dying. And that's more of a Buddhist attachment, where you can have warm feelings, but you don't go overboard. The feelings don't control you. You always control the feelings. And to give George Lucas some credit, in the second trilogy he makes, which is supposed to predate the first trilogy, and that'll screw with your brain if you let it. But in that trilogy, he really shows that Anakin Skywalker can't walk this line. Anakin cannot detach. Neither can, what's his name? Calgon or something? Ben Kenobi's master, played by Liam Neeson, in one of his infamous Liam Neeson always dies tragically and violently in every movie he's in roles. I can't remember. I can't stand that movie, so we used to call him Calgon, the Jedi of Bubble Bath, but I cannot remember what his actual name is. Anyway, that Lucas gets it right, that Anakin's problem is that he cannot detach. But Lucas even gets it wrong because he starts talking about the light side and the dark side of the Force. And the only one who comes close to really showing Buddhism is Mace Windu? I forget who he's played by Samuel L. Jackson. And they show that he has the bad guys, the Darth type of lightsaber, and yet he's a good guy. And, he really is more balanced than any of the other characters, that he really does acknowledge he has a dark side and a light side, and he's using them both. That's actually the closest thing I've seen to Buddhism, except for Yoda, Yoda's like the prize winner. Anyway, I digress. The whole point here is Teflon mind is a bigger sense that you have a secure inner core. And so when we teach Teflon mind in DBT, we often teach it from this very shallow place of just let stuff bounce off your mind. But it's a much bigger thing. It's a much bigger piece of mindfulness. It's about establish your core, believe in your core, believe that you, even when you make mistakes, you are enough. And so you simply can pick and choose what will stick to you. And most of what comes at you, you're just going to let bounce off like something not sticking to Teflon. But I have to tell you, I've really never heard this taught very well. And it's really important to me that Teflon mind isn't simply, I'm kind of like bug repellent, where you come near me and you have to jump away. That's not what's going on. What's going on is I am not porous. There is not room on me for you to just throw garbage at me and it will stick. That I am deciding what sticks to my mind or to my surface, as it were. So this is part of that bigger picture of mindfulness, but you can also hear that it's going to play into distress tolerance, that I do not need to take in everything that everybody says to me. I don't even need to evaluate it. There will be situations where somebody horrible says something horrible to me, and I look at them and I say, I consider this source. I'm not even interested in this statement. By the way, this drives people nuts. It's a great skill. I really do like it. I've noticed that once I started practicing it, I probably lost a job over it because I could not, no matter how hard I tried, show any interest in what one of the bosses, who was very, very toxic, was saying to me. And it drove her crazy. But it's great because there's a moment where you just shake the dust off your feet. In Christianity, Jesus talks about Teflon mind. I might add, when he talks about, and there's one scene where he tells the apostles, go forth and preach and all that. And he says, if people won't listen to you, just shake the dust off your feet and walk away. And that's Teflon mind. He's basically saying, tell people your message. If they're not interested, don't get caught up in it. Just walk away, go on to the next place. And I think probably I'd guess that you can find that all over the major faiths. I'm sure it's in Judaism somewhere. I strongly suspect you'd find it in Islam and Hinduism and Buddhism. Yeah, so anyway, that's Teflon mind. The idea that things don't stick to you, but the even bigger idea behind it of the sense of self-sufficiency within oneself and the ability not to be taking in everything and having to cope with it, that sometimes you simply reject with very little effort because you believe in your own core. Please understand, again, this is not narcissism. This is not, I am complete unto myself. In Buddhism and in DBT, which are not the same thing by any means, we always have room for growth and development. Remember, the core of DBT is, I'm doing the best I can, and yet I still need to change. But you are allowed to be secure. That's what I'm really talking about, is it's a wonderful thing when you become secure, and Teflon mind is a part of that. Okay, let me move on. I am burbling. Next week, by the way, is about not judging, and this is another aspect of Teflon mind. Put a lid on it. It's been so hot. I have not been baking. I haven't even been cooking much. So I'm going to tell you two secrets. One is Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's has a really nice meat selection right now. And unfortunately, they tend to have all their chicken and turkey tends to be skinless and boneless. I don't know, boys. But they do have a lot of shawarma stuff. So we've been buying packaged, pre-marinated shawarma beef and chicken and spatchcock chicken and having a great time with that. And if you're in the Keto League, it's a wonderful thing. I have to say, too, that I've been working on McDonald's Keto. And I don't know if that's even, it's achievable, but it's awkward. This brings up the topic, what is it called? Fathead, the movie Fathead. Many years ago now, a very good documentary filmmaker tried to live on fast food. This is called Supersize It. And he made a documentary. And he talked about how Americans think in terms of giant portions of food and how fast food is less expensive than high quality food in America, which is very different from the rest of the world in this respect. We're encouraging our poor people to eat garbage food, to eat fast food. So he went on this diet where he lived on nothing but fast food, and he constantly supersized because the deal was so good. Like he kept saying, these food producers encourage us to pay 30 extra cents and triple the size of the meal. And he used McDonald's as a major target. So his cholesterol went crazy, put on all this weight. His doctor told him it would kill him. Okay. And it was a worthwhile thing to do because he was demonstrating that we have to be much more thoughtful about the way we eat. However, another filmmaker said, I actually don't think fast food is the problem. I think it's diet. So he decided to live on fast food, but he decided to make it healthy. And in the course of this, the movie is called Fathead, his documentary, what he learns is to be keto. And he figures out that the only way to control his diet when he's doing this, he effectively goes keto, although I think in the beginning he's not aware that's what he's going to do. And by the end of the movie, he's keto. In fact, by the end of the movie, he relocates his whole family from, I think, Burbank, California to Tennessee. They buy a farm, and he gets his kids eating keto. And it's really remarkable. Like he gets his whole family on keto because he's so blown away by the difference in his health. Anyway, in the course of Fathead, you get some good recipes, including the infamous Fathead pizza crust, which is indeed delicious and is heavily based on mozzarella and, I believe, almond flour. And there are also coconut flour versions of it. It is quite good. It is remarkably like the keto crust, in fact, at Blaze Pizza, in my opinion. Having said that, okay, so at the end of Fathead, the guy's basically keto. But he does prove you can eat at fast food restaurants. And many of the keto YouTube channels have made hay with this, have done a lot of segments on eating fast food. So my contribution, I go to McDonald's and I order, they have these double cheeseburgers and they have this package deal too for something like $3. And I now order them with no ketchup and no bun. I ordered double cheeseburgers, no ketchup, no bun, but mustard and pickle. And the pickles are dill, so I'm okay with that, dill slices. And I love mustard. Occasionally I will order it with mayonnaise. Everybody who just got grossed out, just roll with me. Mayonnaise, as used by McDonald's, has oils in it which are not healthy. They use canola-based oils, or I'm not sure if it's canola or safflower. At any rate, the oils you want to use are avocado oil, olive oil. I know there's one more, I'm forgetting it. Oh, coconut oil. Okay, so I buy those types of mayonnaise when I want it from Thrive Market Online. But meanwhile, I try to avoid McDonald's mayonnaise. The only problem with this, if you want to eat keto at McDonald's, they have coffee with cream and they will put vanilla flavoring, no sugar, and a lot of cream, which Starbucks still hasn't managed to do. Starbucks tried to imitate this, and they can't. Starbucks always seems to limit the amount of cream you put in unless you walk in, ask for a bigger cup, so you order their smallest size, but ask for it in a medium-sized cup, and then add your own cream. McDonald's will just do it. McDonald's is really compliant this way. And the other thing they have is Diet Coke. Okay, so you can get the double cheeseburgers, you can get a quarter pounder with cheese, but no ketchup, no bun. You will confuse a lot of McDonald's employees this way. May I recommend, though, stay away from the quarter pounders deluxe because the lettuce they use is garbage and the tomatoes usually are not ripe. Even in California, where we have ripe tomatoes 12 months a year, McDonald's manages to find underripe tomatoes. However, just if you need a keto shot at McDonald's, you take off the bun and the ketchup. Having said that, the cheese they use, I'm pretty sure, has starch as a sort of emulsifier to solidify the cheese into sliced shape. So you might really want to do it without cheese. Okay, so that's my how do you eat keto at McDonald's. And you can do that at most places. In-N-Out Burgers, if you're lucky enough to be in the Southwest. In-N-Out Keto is great because they use fresh lettuce and they use good quality tomatoes. So you go to In-N-Out and you get the keto. They have a, what do they call it? They call it a low-carb version, I think. At any rate, they wrap it in good lettuce and it has tomato. It has a sauce on it that is like a Thousand Island dressing. There's probably carbs in that, I'm pretty willing to bet. And their cheese is in sliced form, which means it probably has some starch. So the rule of thumb there is you take the sauce off it, you take the ketchup off it, you take the bun off it. But an In-N-Out, and probably the cheese, a double in the In-N-Out is great. So there's your keto menu. At most fast food places, you can get salads, but again, you've got to have no crunchies on them because those are almost always starch, whether they're puffed rice or wontons or whatever, and you have to keep away from the dressing. I have to tell you, there's a really easy keto blue cheese where it's sour cream. I think the original uses sour cream and milk. I use sour cream, heavy cream, and a bit of yogurt, and there's some starch, but not a lot there, and then blue cheese crumbles, and that's the way to do it. So, my advice to you is the advice I use. When you travel, you carry your own dressing. Thrive Market also makes a keto ranch and I think a keto blue cheese dressing. So there you go. If you carry those with you, and they don't need to be refrigerated unless they can go a long time without refrigeration. So if you carry those with you, you're pretty good buying fast food salads. And in the meantime, avoid the crunchy stuff. Okay. I'll shoot. Well, this week, not so much, because I was so tired this week. And it was because I did all the medical stuff for 2 weeks in a row. Went and got my mammogram. Yay, me. And that seems to be fine. And went to the doctor. And really, the emotional overhaul of that was much greater than I thought, because having had Dr. Stupid for more years than I should have, because they would not give me another doctor at this medical group. And even when I told her, you misdiagnosed me, because she misdiagnosed me with cancer, I went off to a different provider and had to come back because I changed insurance again. She was just useless, and I didn't realize how much tension and stress I had built up. It is really true. If you want to save your own life, you have to find a good doctor. Dr. Beauty Pageant, the one who keeps saying, you pick me, you pick me, she seems to be pretty good. So that's been going very well. I seem to be over the shingles stuff. Wow, that first shingles shot. No kidding. I had abdominal pain and chills and back pain for about the first 48 hours. And then I had random abdominal and back pain for like 2 weeks. It was pretty intense. So I'm really looking forward to that next shot in September. We'll see if that knocks me flat. But I didn't do a lot of mileage on the bike. I thought I took a picture and posted it to Instagram, to my story, last Thursday, but it would have vanished by now, and I don't seem to have it in my photos. But I think I only rode one day. I really did not get enough done. I think I rode for like 7 or 8 miles. So it just wasn't the week for that. So hopefully this week I'm on the bounce back. Okay, so it's on to the fluffy books. Well, I'm just having a party over here with the Constable Evan series by Riz Bowen, and the links are in the show notes. So I finished Evan and Elle, which was interesting. I think that Riz Bowen is thinking up these titles with horrible puns on heaven and Evan, and then creating the plot around the titles more than anything else. These books seriously feel like she didn't have a plot in mind. She just used the title to make a plot. At any rate, they're delightful. It's sort of like she took an Agatha Christie atmospheric town, like a small village in the southwest of England. And she said, of course, those little towns aren't that way anymore because Christie was writing in like the 1920s. So she decided that North Wales must be full of those little towns, and they're still exactly as they were in England in the 1920s. But now they're in North Wales. Everybody's speaking Welsh. They all hate, well, they don't hate, but they disapprove of outsiders who don't speak Welsh. And they're all acting like people out of a 1920s Christie small town novel. At any rate, I'm enjoying it. And I'm on to the next one in the series, which is Evan Can Wait. And he does. He waits around a lot as a film crew tries to make a documentary. And I've totally fallen for the crazy in this. That it's full of cliches and adorable country types from British rural type of fiction. It's like reading this very strange parody of those types of novels with happy rural people bustling around, being adorable and also stereotypical. So I'm enjoying that series. I note also that another one of the wonderful Flavia Albia series has come out, and they are set in 2nd century Rome, I believe. And they're just an awful lot of fun. Of course, Flavia Albia, the heroine, is the adopted daughter of Marcus Didius Falco, who was the hero of the first 12 or 15 novels in the series. And I recommend all of them, and they will be coming back to haunt us in a later episode. On to something I really like. Well, while I was down in Camarillo this past weekend, I happened into Journey Home and had no luck there. It just felt like looking at crystals and stuff. And Journey Home, you may remember from a previous podcast, had really turned me off. During the beginning of the quarantine, they were pretending it was all fake. And I thought, well, they have such nice stuff, and I'll just go look, and I'll look through their books and stuff. And again, I just don't know why I get such a high out of metaphysical bookstores. I think it's because while I don't believe in most of the stuff they're pushing, I do get a certain response from crystals. I can stick my hand in a bowl full of them and my hand tingles. Okay. So while I don't buy a lot of the things they say about crystals and geodes and rocks and all that, I do have some reaction to them, and I don't think that's unlikely. I believe in humans as batteries, and we give off electrical current. We know this. And it's why things like EKGs can work on us and why we can be electrocuted. And so I do think we probably interact in some sort of magnetic and electrical way with our environment. And some of the stones are definitely going to affect that, I guess. So I enjoy those things. That's all I can say. I also love pretty rocks, and I love little gems on leather bands and all that stuff. I think it's my early childhood in the 60s and 70s. I still have an inner hippie. The other thing I really like is I love tarot art. I have always been interested in some of the really creative tarot decks. And this came about back in the 80s that I started to see really fanciful ones. And I fell for one by an artist named Robin Wood, and I just loved Wood's illustrations. She got fibromyalgia and stopped drawing, and I think it's rather a shame. But she did this wonderful tarot deck where you could look at the card and know the meaning. And it was really, really well wrought. Most of the time, if you buy a classic tarot, you have no idea what it means. You have to memorize the card meanings. And Wood was really great because she said, no, why don't we just paint the card to give you hints? So I've always loved the Robin Wood Tarot because they're kind of hardcore common sense cards. I have to tell you too, I don't believe in tarot cards. I don't believe that I'm predicting anybody's future with tarot cards. What I do think is interesting is I think they appeal to a deeply, for lack of a better phrase, Jungian part of us. That the symbolism appeals to humans, and that's probably why they've had so much success. I've also found it interesting that if you lay out cards and you explain what you're doing to someone else, they will develop a pattern in the cards. I'm not really sure how they do it. But you usually can look at the cards they draw if you lay them out in a certain arrangement and you explain what each place means. They will put them in a pattern that is interpretable. On top of that, in the 90s, a lot of Jungian and Freudian psychologists and psychiatrists got very interested in tarot cards. I really don't know why. It was a fad, I guess. And so a lot of decks that are kind of alternative tarots were produced. There was this insanely beautiful deck, which I wish I could find. I had a copy of, and I don't know what's become of it. The cards were rather large, and they just were a cluster of images all photoshopped together onto the card. And each one was like this Jungian fantasy. And I don't remember if they even had the traditional suits. But they were really interesting just to look at and to sort of piece together what you thought each card meant. So I kind of enjoy the symbolic aspect of the cards. And on top of it, a lot of people have invested a lot of time developing thematic decks. And some of the artwork back in the 90s was so beautiful. Now, not so much. Anyway, so there I am in Journey Home, and they only had a handful of tarot decks. They were ones I'd all seen, and like the Rider-Waite, the old traditional ones. And I don't know, ever since I found out that these people believe that the 5G towers are influencing us and they don't believe in the pandemic, I've really just gotten bad energy there. So I walked out and I wasn't feeling well and I thought I need a restroom, and I ended up at Barnes & Noble up in Ventura. And after the requisite trip, I went over to their New Age shelves and found they had a terrific selection of tarot decks, and they were mostly things I'd seen, and I thought, frankly, the artwork was uninspired. But I've always enjoyed, like I said, creative decks. Well, and then I found the Cat Tarot. And on the cover is just, well, there's a picture in my Blogspot pages. It's a picture of a cat with a card in its mouth. And if you look, there's a few other cards pictured, like there's one of a big white cat with the cone of shame around his head. I looked at this and thought these were so hilarious. And the woman who created them, they're very nice drawings. And then she created a guidebook, but it's all written with a kind of cat logic. So the whole deck of swords is about claws. And everything is interpreted through a cat's logic. So like the card about, what is it? It's a Three of Pentacles. And it's traditionally about, Pentacles is about wealth. And the threes are usually about success in the traditional decks. And there's more to it. I'm not going to go into that whole explanation. I'm very interested in it simply because I was a Shakespeare scholar, and numerology is big in Shakespeare's time. Tarot actually comes after Shakespeare, but they use a lot of that old-fashioned numerology. And so it's useful to me to know that numerology. 3 is the number, if you're wondering, in Shakespeare's era of the spirit. It's the Trinity of God in Christian belief. Okay, so 3 is a very good number. Let's put it that way. And 4 is the number of the earth. And 3 and 4 together are the spirit and the earth together. And that's why 7's a lucky number in numerology, because it's the best of the best. It's all the good stuff. So anyway, 3s are always good, and Pentacles are always about abundance. So the 3 of Pentacles is sort of about wealth. And the card shows this big fat cat lying on his back with its big belly sticking up into the air, and it's waving its paws. And the description is about, this is really great. You've got catnip galore. You know? So it's a very charming deck. So I brought home the Cat Tarot. And I'm surprised. I haven't bought a tarot deck in years because I've just been bored with the art. I've been just, yeah. And again, it's not like I'm buying them for the sake of predicting the future. It's just more that some of the art was so beautiful on some of the decks. I used to love to look at the different renderings. And I love certain cards that I find they're very interesting how they render some of the cards because of the symbolism behind the card. So I'm always interested in how they do the Fool and Death and the High Priestess and the Queens. And you can hear the inner feminist in me bristling there. And I just enjoy it. I know the meanings of those cards, I think. I'm not sure about the major arcana, frankly, but I'm better on the minor ones because I can use my numerology knowledge from back in the day. And so I'm always interested in what that cluster of cards, what they look like. And there's always some bonus cards, some other interesting things that I never would have thought of in the deck, you know, in cards that usually don't interest me. So, for example, that 3 of Pentacles is just hilarious. I'm not particularly interested in that card, but I was looking at the cards today and I pulled that one out and just thought it was a riot, that it was just a fat cat lying there enjoying himself playing. I think He's got little ribbons above him that he's playing with his paws. And he's just lying there looking like a really contented fat cat. And I love the write-up for the card that the artist did. And usually I don't care about the write-ups very much. But I really think this artist went for it. This woman really, really dug for funny cat interpretations. So something I really like this week is the Cat Tarot. Yes, I put a link in if you'd like to order a copy. On the blather, well, my son had a very busy week. And first of all, he has spent the last month in a theater and drama arts program that his school put on. And it was really funded by donations. And they had a play called The Enchanted Bookshop. And they threw this together in 1 month. And they really did a great job. Really, the premise was there's a bookstore and it's getting no business because everybody just wants to play video games. But the characters from the classics come to life every night. And in the midst of this, a thief walks in and uses one of the books to hide a diamond necklace. And the owner of the bookstore does not know this is going on. And the characters from the books decide to help her settle the problem because eventually she gets threatened by the thieves. Boy, did they know who my son was. They cast him as Sherlock Holmes. He had a very big part. And it also was a really hammy part. They really got his number. The best part was when the thieves broke the spine of the Sherlock Holmes collection. And after the thieves run away and leave the store, all the characters come out. And my son comes out being dragged by 2 other people because his back is broken. And they put him down and he falls on the floor and he just hammed it up about how his back was broken. Fortunately, who fixed him? Dorothy, as in The Wizard of Oz. She fixed him with help from Pollyanna. And I must say, the casting was really well done. Pollyanna was hilarious. It was a lot of fun. And so he performed that, but predictably, he had an emotional low afterwards. They had 3 straight days of 2 performances a day, and he was getting applause, and he was having a great time. And you can see the pictures. I did a sort of collage picture. And he's in the top right. He's the guy on the top right of the top right. He's the only one in all the pictures, so you'll figure out who he is. He just had a great time. He's wearing a vest with a kind of sloppy shirt hanging out from it. I'm not sure why that was Sherlock Holmes, but hey, they had to do with what they had for costumes, I guess. Anyway, he had a blast. So we ended up having our power turned off. We were warned that our power was going to be turned off Friday night. And I said, well, this is also our anniversary this weekend. Why don't we make a bit of fun out of it? So I got us a hotel room. Now, hotel rooms are as scarce as hen's teeth right now all over this area, including Vegas. And I've been hearing about it, but I thought surely not out in Ventura. Yes, out in Ventura. It's like July 4th was a party and it just hasn't ended here. So I could only get a room in this freeway side Fairfield Inn. It turned out to be pretty good. I got a room with a king bed and a rollaway couch bed, which was queen-sized. So the deal was, son was performing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I had patients Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So we decided the power outage was Friday night. Our anniversary was, I can't remember if it was the 25th, whichever day that was, Saturday or Sunday. Hang on, it's Wednesday the 28th, Monday was the 26th, it was Sunday. Okay. We had the hotel room Friday and Saturday night. And so after I saw my patients on Friday, I went down to see the play, about a 40-minute drive away. Had a nice quiet dinner at Chipotle, of all places, which was very close to where the school and the theater were. And then my husband and I went and saw the play. And it was delightful. And then they went home. My husband wasn't feeling well, but I said, well, I've got a hotel room in Camarillo. I'm going. So I drove out to Camarillo, and I ended up having this really lovely day there that I got there Friday night. It was rather a scary drive in the dark. I was too tired to do it. My eyes were bleared out from staring at the computer all day to talk to patients. But I got there, and I climbed into bed and made the best of it in my hotel room alone and felt sort of sad that the boys weren't with me. And I passed out, and I woke up the next morning in a great place. I just woke up happy and ready to go. I didn't get to bed till midnight. I woke up at 6 a.m., but I just said, okay. And I went down to McDonald's in Camarillo, and I got an iced coffee with vanilla, sugar-free. And I rode around a little bit And I found Starbucks and I bought 2 iced teas and brought them home to keep me going all day. Because the water down there is terrible. And anyway, I sat there and I saw patients. And I had, in the midst of it, I believe I had a 2-hour lunch break. And I ran up to Blaze Pizza in Oxnard and got a pizza, which was well made, which was nice after the lousy one in Ventura the week before. And I came back and I just had a very happy day and enjoyed seeing my patients. Got all my notes done. And the boys showed up after my son's performance. They showed up at about 10 o'clock that night. And so, it was very sweet. They were there and my son loved having his special rollaway bed. And we ended up having a very pleasant evening together. And of course, I woke up the next morning on our anniversary, our 29th anniversary, with my beloved at my side, snoring in this big king-size bed. And it was lovely to just roll over and say happy anniversary, as I realized he'd totally forgotten it. We always do. This is a tradition. I have to tell you, I am not faking this laugh. We have never remembered the date or the year. We finally looked it up last year and realized, oh my God, we've been telling people we've been married longer than we have. We kept thinking we were married in 91. We were married in 92. But we have been together since 87. So, it's been a long time. But we're still only at 29. We celebrated our 20th anniversary on our 19th, our 25th and our 24th. We get it wrong every time. And we forget. We remember it was on a Saturday. And I finally sat down with him in a calendar and we realized it had to be in 92, that I got my degree from Stanford in 91 and went off to Washington State. And he came out the following summer and we got married after I did a National Endowment for the Humanities grant at the Folger that summer. He came out. We were married the week after I finished my Folger grant, and we were married on Mount Shasta in Northern California. So we're the most unromantic people about this date because we've just been together so long. Well, by the time we finally tied the knot, it was beautiful, but we really already felt married at that point. Anyway, so it was lovely, and we just decided that we could do what we wanted on that Sunday, so we went out to a nice breakfast at Eggs and Things. And the son was just restless and miserable. And I went on Amazon and I bought him a game console, like a classic video games console, because we don't want him running loose on the internet for a number of reasons. He's not looking at bad things, at porn and stuff, but he'll look at videos all night long. And so I finally realized he's bored in the restaurant. He's being a really good kid. There's no reason he can't sit there and play video games while we wait for our food. So I ordered it for him as a kind of, you're a really good kid kind of gift, and to celebrate his great theatrical victory. So we had this lovely day. And then we went up to Ventura, and we were all really restless. And we finally decided that to celebrate our anniversary, my son should go to the bouncing place back in Santa Clarita, because he had a subscription for the month. So my husband took him back, and this was where actually I was wandering around Journey Home and Barnes & Noble down there. And then I was in Barnes & Noble and I got the Cat Tarot and I got myself a blank book. And I just sat down and journaled and realized how good it feels just to journal again. And I was using the Cat Tarot as a sort of prompt. And that's a great way to write. If you want to do creative writing and you feel like just venting, I know it sounds strange, but you open a tarot deck, you pull one card, and you don't take it as telling the future or anything like that. I don't have that power. I don't know. Maybe you do, but I don't. But it's fun to sort of pull a card, look at it, and say, what do I think that means? And what does it look like it means? And then read the interpretation and then think about, does this apply to my life? And it's just kind of fun. It's just a way to get random insights. And sometimes you totally miss, of course. But I sat there journaling and then realized I wanted to go back and be with my boys. And by this point, they were moving on to a place called Top Out Climbing, which is just rock walls you can climb. So I got there just as they were leaving the bounce place, and I got out to Top Out and met them there. So there's pictures of my son on 3 different walls. And it was great because my husband wanted to tire him out. So he said, sprint. You have to go up these walls as fast as you can. And of course, he's got a safety harness on, so there's no falling. But the bug kind of bit me. I looked at the walls and said, I wouldn't mind trying that. To which my husband said, trying to stay calm as he talked to his insane wife who took up scuba diving in her 50s. He said, Of course, at our age, we should always use the walls that have safety harnesses. We should never just free climb. And I looked at him and said, are you crazy? Of course. I'm not free climbing. I don't plan to go upside down in Yosemite or, up any big major rock thing. I just want to climb this phony wall in Santa Clarita for something to do. But I thought it would be great because women lose upper body strength as they age. And I really resent that. Now, I have pretty good upper body strength, but it's not great anymore. The average 55-year-old woman in America cannot lift 2 bags of groceries. I can. But it is getting harder, and I thought it might be fun to learn to do this just to work on my upper body strength. So I'm toying with that. And so if you go to the show notes, you can see pictures of our adventure in Camarillo. You can see my son as Sherlock Holmes. You can see him climbing his wall. There is my Blaze Pizza. And by the way, before the boys came, I took myself out to an insanely good sushi place called Masa Sushi. And it's over on Las Posas if you're in the area. It's well tucked in behind a Chase Bank, but I highly recommend it. And there is a picture also. My boys went down to the beach. I went too, but I was kind of cold. And we went up to the harbor, and then they climbed down to the beach. And I just sat on a rock and took distant pictures. And you can see also a picture of a weather forecast for Acton on Monday. We were supposed to get rain in 70s-ish degrees. Yeah, no. It went to the low 80s. But we didn't get our rain. We had a flash flood watch. Nothing happened. It was kind of a bummer. However, I have to say, Minerva still gets the last word. And this time it's about stress relief. People give cats a bad rap. People always talk about how dogs are so empathic and dogs love you. And cats do, but they're very selective about it, I have to admit. So we came home, and Monday morning my son was just crabby. That he was missing his program and he was stuck at home, and we have activities for him. But he was just crabby, and the funniest thing, he started whining at my husband. And I came in to my husband's study where they both were, and I sat on the arm of my husband's couch while we all talked about what are we going to do. And my kid was really whiny, and to my surprise, I hear meow, 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 and Minerva comes running in the room, and she jumps on my son, and she was comforting him. And I was so surprised that she was really concerned that he was unhappy. And I thought, well, that makes sense, because she's actually pretty empathic with me. That even though she finds me a little scary at times, she really wants to comfort me. And I think my favorite thing, of course, is in the morning, she actually wants to greet me in the morning. She gets on the bed, she crawls on my chest, and she literally puts her arms around my neck and presses her head, the top of her head, against my face. And I know she wants me to, I'm not making this up, to stroke her with my chin while I hold her. And she wants me to rub under her jaw and around her neck. She wants me to scratch. But I realize, as I read somewhere, that we are roughly the proportions of a mother cat to a kitten when a human who's an adult holds an adult cat. I don't know if that's true, but I think Minerva still responds to that. That she does think I'm the kind of slightly dangerous mother cat because I'm clumsy and kind of stupid. But she really wants to be greeted like my kitten every morning. And she really seems to get that Gareth is my kitten. And I think she may have decided that he's our mutual kitten. And so she tries to comfort him. She likes my husband. She gives him room, but she likes him. I think she just thinks he's sort of large. And she also has this definition of human. And I think he fits it, and Gareth and I don't. So, I guess the last word is I'm very grateful to have my little fuzzy black stress relief pill walking by me. And it's interesting, too, because I get asked all the time to write letters to make pets into emotional support animals so people can keep them with them in their apartments for free without any penalty. And I can't do that. My board has taken that away from us, which I'm kind of relieved because I don't want to get sued, frankly. But I looked at Minerva as she was comforting my son, and I thought, it is true that it is healthier to have pets. And humans who have pets do much, much better because of the pets. And there's all sorts of stories about elderly people, their pets die, and they die right after them because the pet means so much as a companion and comfort. So hats off, Minerva. You're clearly our stress reliever. And I'll see if I can get a good picture of her being stress relief. And I think that's about it. So thank you for listening along. It's been lovely talking to you. We are masked up again in LA County, and it's funny how much easier it is this time around. So what I would tell you is don't make a big thing out of it. If we're going back towards masking and more conservative behaviors, let's remember that there's still a pandemic. The people under 12 are not vaccinated. Not a lot has changed. We've had a nice summer of freedom, but we really have to go back to taking care of each other and, most important, to protecting our children, don't we? That's right, we do. So remember, the whole point is get your vaccination, wear your mask, observe social distance. I know it's hard. Wash your hands, which should never have changed. But if you weren't doing it before, now is the time. Because the whole point of this exercise, of course, is everybody please stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.